Hi everyone, my name is Erica.
And this is Matt.
And we're here to tell you about what happened in the State House this week. This week, on Wednesday, they voted on the supplemental budget, this wonderful piece of legislation. We'd like to break that down for you. And naturally, it's the Massachusetts State House, so you can't have Massachusetts State House without a little bit of voter suppression, some corporate tax breaks, and some good old boys misogyny. So let's just dive right in. So Matt, tell us, I know you were there all day on both Tuesday and Wednesday. I remember this, remember around noon you got this piece of stack of papers? And tell me more what happened.
Yeah, so this is 50 pages of dense legalese, which dropped on Tuesday around noon. I came out of a meeting and found out that, oh wow, there's a new version of the supplemental budget. You might have remembered they've already passed a full version of the fiscal year 2020 budget earlier this year. This is the budget that they need to do to close out 2019. And so it's some pieces of housekeeping, but then there were also basically new laws, new earmarks, pretty big stuff in here too. And so the reps and the public had very little time to really review this. Again, Tuesday at noon was when we got word of what the text was going to be, and then they were voting on this on Wednesday in the evening. So a little bit over 24 hours. And actually reps had only until 5 p.m. to file amendments. So
they had 5 hours.
Yeah, think about this. You get this like shoved in your face, and you say, okay,
the federal tax code.
You have for the next 5 hours rather. You can file any amendments you'd like. But if you try to file it at 5:01 p.m., we're going to say it's too late.
Okay, and then also then the public only had really 4 hours to respond the following day, 4 business hours. I mean, I suppose it was technically 25 hours, but like most people are sleeping. So from 9 to 1 p.m. was the window of opportunity for the public to react to 96 amendments and this 50-page long bill. Is that right? Yeah, it's really outrageous. It's why we fought so hard earlier this year for more transparency, more time for reps to read the bills. This is precisely what we were talking about. The reps who spoke in favor of that reform were not making a mountain out of a molehill. Like, this is a real problem. And there were some troubling things in this budget. So Governor Baker proposed a number of really tax cuts and other policy changes that I don't agree with. Most of those were taken out by the House when they released this version, but not a big corporate tax break. It's going to be about $37 million worth to the corporations of Massachusetts. That made it into the House version. And then similarly, there was a piece of new law that was put in here by the House Democrats, not Governor Baker, but the House Democrats, to move our state primary date to September 1st, which is move-in day for next year. So this will be probably the worst day you've had an election. So those were the two things that we notified our members about, and people were calling to try and support amendments to change, to stop that corporate tax break and to move the primary date off of the worst day probably of the year to do it. And just to be clear, this is our 80% supermajority Democratic legislature that decided to keep this corporate tax break. That even Trump's administration was like, maybe we should not have this loophole, which we can talk more about. And then the House Democrats, the supermajority Democrats, also voted to have the primary day moved from September 15th to September 1.
Yes, exactly.
Great. Well, let's dive into both those points. This sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, so the short version of the corporate tax stuff, because it gets really wonky and jargony, is when President Trump came into office, he wanted to pass a big honking tax cut. And he passed a big tax cut, handed corporations and the wealthy a giant bag of money. And at the same time, there's this streak of republicanism that's about government and small, cutting bureaucracy. And so he closed a bunch of loopholes. And so one of the things he changed the way that business interest can be deducted. Don't worry about precisely what it means, but basically he's handing with one hand a big bag of money, and then the other hand he's making some tweaks to the tax code that'll get pocket change back. And so this was about the proposal in this law that Governor Baker made and that the House Ways and Means Committee supported was about ensuring that loophole that Trump closed was reopened for Massachusetts taxes, because Massachusetts follows the federal treatment of all of this. So certainly would not have been my first priority to try and fix this loophole that only corporations can pay.
Well, fix as in actually open it up.
Yeah, open it up.
Right, yeah. And so, okay, that seems pretty ridiculous. And so we basically our reps had 5 hours to fix this.
Yeah.
And I remember we were on the phone around 4 p.m. with a few state reps who were trying to fix all these problems. And I understand that there were some amendments that were there to fix this.
Yeah, so Rep. Maria Robinson and a number of other progressives filed an amendment, number 60, which would have struck the section that created this, reopened this corporate tax loophole.
Okay.
And so that was one of the most important amendments. We had a lot of people calling. I heard people who said that their reps heard a lot about support for amendment number 60. And That actually got a floor debate and a recorded vote. It was defeated, but the progressive reps were able to be on record saying that they opposed this change to reopen the loophole. So we'll have that published on the website. You can see the good progressive reps who voted the right way, I would say. And then there was just a lot of drama in the debate. It was actually pretty outrageous the way that several legislators were silenced. So maybe I could just briefly walk you through it. So Rep. Robinson walked into the chamber and got up to speak in favor of her amendment. And within a few sentences of her speaking, she was interrupted by another Rep. Denise Garlick, who said, "Will the representative yield for a question?"
So tell me more about this yielding for a question, because a question sounds nice. You know, like I just have a question. I mean, it's a little weird to say it 3 sentences in to be like, "Oh, I have a question," but this yielding piece.
So yielding to a question isn't a thing.
Okay.
In parliamentary procedure, you can yield to another speaker or not, and if you yield, there's no guarantee that you get to speak again. So, and we saw literally minutes later of 2 other women legislators trying to speak and not being recognized by the chair, not getting an opportunity to speak. Actually, they recorded their own speeches and posted them to Facebook.
So this is kind of like a legislative way of saying, let me let you finish, kind of thing, where they grab the mic from you. Like
it was a little Kanye. It was a little bit Kanye.
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of Kanye.
I'm going to let you finish, but first let me just say. And the question was essentially, what Rep. Garlick did get a chance to speak after Robinson spoke, and her question was essentially, I don't understand why this amendment is written badly, or I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish.
So it's not a question.
It was really not a question. It was like a criticism disguised as a question.
Yeah.
And Rep. Garlick got her opportunity to speak. She laid out her reasons for why she didn't think it. Essentially, she said that there was a technical problem with the way the amendment was written, and therefore it didn't accomplish what it was purported to do, and therefore no one should vote for it. But there's technical fixes that get put in all the time. There was a technical amendment on this bill at the end where a number of corrections and things just get put together. You can also make a friendly amendment from the floor. There's multiple ways to fix this, but it was held up as the reason of like, oh, this is all the I's are not dotted, all the T's are not crossed, therefore we should not vote for this amendment.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it just seems strange too, because I know that they did start voting at 1 p.m. technically. They didn't really do anything for hours. So during that whole full day of mulling around and all that, Representative Garlick could have easily just asked Representative Robinson rather than trying to just interrupt her in the middle of her speech.
Yes. Yeah. There's typically, so when I showed up at 1 p.m. to watch the House operate, there's just a lot of downtime. And that's typically where reps are going into meeting rooms that the public cannot go into, where they talk to Ways and Means, talk to House leadership, and really argue for their amendments, why they should be passed or not. And then you see often after those conversations that the amendments are reworded and then passed on voice votes, or the reps withdraw them when they're told they're not going to actually get a chance to vote on them. What was so courageous about what Rep. Robinson did was it was pretty clear from what happened that there was no deal worked out in the back room. She wanted to have public debate, talk about this, and have a vote about what actually should be done and not reopen this corporate tax loophole.
She wanted a public debate.
She wanted a public debate. I know that's a thing that doesn't often happen in the Massachusetts State House.
And not just her, but actually 2 other reps wanted to be part of this debate, and 2 women reps wanted to be part of this debate, and literally, from what I understand, Rep. Donato saw them? You didn't see them? What's going on with that?
Yeah,
why couldn't they speak?
So typically what happens is when you want to speak on an amendment, you go up and tell the chair in advance that you want to speak on it. I saw Rep. Sabadosa, Rep. Gouveia do that. And then during the debate, you do have to be recognized by the chair. So you have to stand and say, Mr. Speaker. And Rep. Sabadosa in particular, Rep. Gouveia and Sabadosa both did this, but Sabadosa was particularly loud and very clear from where I was sitting up in the gallery. Like no one in that room could not have heard that. She was saying, Mr. Speaker, and yelling very loudly. And I saw him, Rep. Donato was operating his chair that day. I saw him sort of look towards her and then hesitate and then said something about the roll call being ordered and moved it to the roll call vote. And so there were some Monday morning or Thursday morning quarterbacking the day after where reps were saying, Rep. Sabadosa just didn't understand the process. She needs to be recognized at the appropriate time, but she did everything right. She asked to be recognized. And the chair looked at her and then decided, no, it's going to move to roll call. We're going to deal with this right now. So she didn't get a chance to speak. She recorded her own speech and put it on Facebook. It's pretty nice. You should check it out.
Yeah, no, so it sounds like what's going on here, they make it sound like it's all this procedural stuff that we didn't follow the rules on or something like that, but actually what's going on is these all look like dirty tricks. I mean, this is just my opinion, but these are dirty tricks of saying, let me cut off someone speaking on a matter, which is something as basic as maybe don't give corporations tax breaks. Seems like a reasonable thing to talk about publicly. So they tried to cut her off It seems almost like intimidation too, like saying like, how dare you even try to speak on this? Because I know that this is kind of unusual thing that's going on right now, which is that Rep. Robinson filed an amendment and held it and demanded a roll call, despite the fact that perhaps the powers that be, Speaker, the leadership, did not want her to do that when they didn't broker these backroom deals, which is how it's usually done.
It's really, I mean, what she did was really courageous. That you're right. There is definitely House leadership does not want to see a lot of recorded votes. You can see it. There's only a handful of meaningful recorded votes every month, every session. And so it was really great what she did. She got an opportunity to speak on it. But yeah, to your point, I don't know what's going through Rep. Carlick's head or the other members who spoke against it or voted against it. But this was definitely, it struck me as an attempt to maybe rattle Rep. Robinson, just to argue that on a technicality this shouldn't be adopted, rather than have a substantive debate about why are we jumping to the aid of corporations to keep $37 million in their pocket when our tea is on fire, roads and bridges are not fully funded here in this state. We've got education funding. There's like a lot of reasons why we need that money, and like jumping to try and save the corporations that little bit of tax doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no. So I mean, it sounds like essentially a number of progressive reps were silenced for trying to speak out. And it sounds even like silence because they dared to challenge the power structure and like challenge how things get done in the State House, which is entirely, or not entirely, but pretty much substantively behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And to bring that process to open was this amendment number 60.
Exactly.
Very interesting. So then I guess I also want to talk about the primary election date in 2020. From what I understand, they moved it from, again, House Democrats moved it from September 15th to September 1st. There were two amendments to fix it. I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, what is a worse date than September 1? I know both of us have moved. We are people in our 30s moving in Boston, and I remember September 1 being one of the worst days of the year for me. I'm not sure about for you, but yeah, it sounds pretty terrible.
It's definitely going to lead to much lower voter turnout. Let's be honest, it's a type of voter suppression. If we scheduled an election on Christmas, we would expect to hear a lot of complaints that it would be really voter suppression. If we did it on a other religious holiday, it would be the same thing. And this is just, it's outrageous to me that we would have an election on September 1st. This was, the reasoning that was stated was something around the need to turn around ballots for the general election and stuff like that. But, Rep. Robinson's amendment in particular was about moving it 2 days later to September 3rd so that the election would just not be on this particularly bad day. Yeah. And it's shocking that amendment wasn't adopted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, it seems it's suppressing definitely students, having it so early in the month as well as on September 1. It's suppressing renters, because about 1 in 4 renters move in Boston. You're also suppressing it from people who commute or have like rigid work schedules. If you're working a shift or something like that, and you're commuting back to Natick or Needham or any other part of the state.
If you have to drive through any part of Metro Boston or probably Metro Worcester, you're going to be dealing with a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
And, if you're trying to drive back home to get to the 8 p.m. poll close, you might miss it. This is just a terrible, terrible election day.
Yeah. Okay. So that seems pretty ridiculous. And I mean, it just seems weird. So in summary, with these two parts of this bill, one is that we gave more money to corporations who don't need it, and we made it more difficult for people who need to be in this political process to engage in the process and be able to vote on primary day, which is already a historically very low turnout day. Yeah. Wow, that's pretty damning. Well, thanks so much for summarizing this. This is pretty all outrageous, and we're looking forward to talking about the end bill. They'll be coming up in the next few weeks.
And both of these issues, the Senate still has to take it up. So we'll include on our website, on our Facebook and social media, ways you can scripts for you reaching out to your senator to ask them to fix these two issues since the House did.
Cool. Well, awesome. Thanks so much.